Peace. So I was doing a little bit of investigations around this whole entire thing of high gas prices, this whole entire thing that's going on with Ukraine and Russia, and certain exports of reliable resources in that country, and how a lot of things is transforming from different countries that's lowering down on their resources, things being attacked for their resources, all this other stuff, and yada yada yada. Now, seeing it from the metropolitan areas itself, you're starting to see a big rise in these gas prices. And I remember walking outside my door yesterday. I remember just walking up the street. And I remember seeing, quite frankly, this gas station, and it was like $5 a gallon. And I was like, God damn, like, it's getting crazy and out of loop with this whole entire thing. And I know for sure that when you're living in a big metropolitan area, a lot of people don't want to drive because they're accessible to a lot of transit options, such as the train, the bus, whatever have you, and even ride sharing programs. Now, this is the thing about the ride sharing program itself. I have an understanding that when it comes to the Taxi and Limousine Commission, they was competing with the app, those apps that would be card sharing programs, and trying to figure out how, specifically, like how the yellow cabs in the borough taxis was going to be able to make money or be able to still get customers as competing with these ride sharing programs. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of things become replacements. Then I was seeing the other day when it came to a lot of these infrastructure programs that they're trying to offer these autonomous buses or these autonomous cars, these little pods that's supposed to drive people around. And, it gives you a on-demand service that gets you to your destination. So a lot of things are starting to become crazy. And then this whole entire talk about cutting down on greenhouse emissions and all these different things. It's just really crazy how things is becoming, right? So the factor into this play, and the reason why I wanted to make this video as well, is because I wanted to touch on an aspect that really rang an alarming, signal to me, where I had seen certain things that I was just like, wow, like, wait a minute. This has to do with a lot of different things that they're trying. Of course, if anybody's thinking on a high conscious level, everybody knows that this is a simulation. This is going to give way into a lot of different things that I'll touch upon later. But I definitely want to make sure that, I just toggle this and, play around with the idea and give myself an idea about what's going on, especially because they're increasing the idea of, gas, and, people are not able to pay for gas, or they're upset because it's becoming more expensive to fill up that tank. But I will lead you into my thesis, my theory on why I believe this whole entire high gas prices is going on, the inflation period versus around with food and all these different things. Now it's with gas and driving. So I'll give my perspective on that as the video plays. And then I'm going to read to you something that I found very profound in two big, expensive cities, which can make me, analyze or amplify my thesis more. So, Pete.
And it is a painful reality for drivers as the price of gas hits record highs.
And that has some people asking if it's time to switch to an electric car. CBS 2's Dalia Perez, why some are saying, she explains here why some are saying it's not the idea, not so fast.
$4.35 a gallon for regular gas may sound like a bargain to some, with the average in the city at $4.45. This Manhattan gas station on the west side is charging $5.89.
I start for 60 to fill it up, now go to 120. I'm worth for the gasoline, taxes, propane, and everything.
Well, the thing about it is, on personal aspects, when it came to the Taxi and Limousine Commission, it was getting so crazy, especially living in the big city, that you couldn't make a career off of being a taxi driver. There was a lot of, men out there that were committing suicide from not being able to fulfill being a taxi driver, or trying to go ahead and infiltrate into the whole entire rideshare program, such as Uber, Lyft, Via, and whatever other apps is out there they use as ride-sharing programs now. That's why they tried. Now they decided to say, look, listen, we're gonna have to have you get into the Taxi and Limousine Commission, y'all have to be a part of our program too, because you're taking fares from those that drive yellow cabs and all these different things. But peep this on your screen right now. This pump that's here, this is supposed to be a quote unquote electric pump that they use on these electric cars. And a lot of people may ask, oh, electric cars, I never thought about that. But I say it to you, I always think of it this way. When they introduce it, it's a slow testing. They want to be able to give you options, right? They want to be able to say to you, hey, look, listen, ditch the whole entire thing of gasoline. You're paying too much. Go ahead and pay for an electric car. Hey, look, listen, it lowers down greenhouse emissions. It doesn't exhaust any fumes. You know, you're able to pay for it through an app and all this other stuff. Digitize everything. You understand? And a lot of these cities is working towards that, in which they want to be able to say, hey, look, listen, we're not even accepting gas cars here. You're a gas guzzler. You're causing a lot of stuff to go up in the air. Don't you care about the planet? Don't you care about the world? Don't you care about the earth? You must get this electric car or we're going to put you in a fine if you don't do it.
Hybrid car driver says the jump in gas prices has his friends considering different options.
One of my best friends called me up last night, knows I have an electric car, and was asking for like tips on how to like buy one and like what to look out for.
Would you ever consider buying an electric car?
Yeah, definitely.
You could do that, but let's take this into example. Now it's going to go ahead and follow the whole entire bell curve theory. It'll be introduced. A lot of people is not going to be with it. A lot of people is going to be like, no, I'm not getting no electric car. What are you, crazy? Who wants to get an electric car? Maybe some people might be like, no, this might be a good investment. Okay. Then when it comes to a lot of people catching on into these electric cars because they feel like the whole entire thing with gasolines is too expensive, more people will jump on. Then it'll start being the mainstay of how people transport themselves and all these different things. But moreover, if anybody's been paying attention to what they've researched when it comes to Agenda 2030, it will tell you that. It will tell you about cutting down on greenhouse emissions and about moving towards an efficient way of saving the planet and all these different things. But my whole entire thing is I definitely do believe there are some lobbyists that's pushing these ideas into the forefront of trying to get people out of those whole entire things of like getting into these electric cars or opting out on cars in general and taking public transportation such as the bus and the train. you gotta check this shit out, man. It's really something that's really flabbergasting to me. Continue.
With electric charging stations located all over the city, it may look like an appealing alternative, but not so fast, says automotive expert Lauren Fix.
Gas prices will continue to climb, and that doesn't mean go look for an electric vehicle. That means maintain the vehicle that you have.
Fix says there are a number of factors.
I mean, honestly, I understand what she's saying, but that's not the idea they have in mind. The whole entire idea in mind is to get you out of those cars and to ideally get you into public transportation, which then follows into the AI and surveillance state, in my opinion, in which if they're able to get more people to take the trains and the bus and be able to walk, they can control you more, which is the main reason they'll follow into the whole entire smart cities initiative by 2030.
Factors to consider before jumping into an electric car.
The insurance rates are twice as high in electric cars than they are in gasoline-powered cars because of the replacement.
And that's the point. Create a need. The thing about it is now it's a want, but the whole entire idea with these cars, when they start to, push up the gas prices is to create a need, a solution. So now getting an electric car would be the solution in case you really, really, really don't want to drive. I mean, with the gasoline, in case you have to still drive, but you can't find an alternative or your state or your city is bugging out when it comes to the whole entire gasoline theory that is. It's more of a push on the cities before it's in the suburbs because they'll try to discard the suburbs and be like, the suburbs is not an ideal place to live. Because what does that say? Restriction of freedom. When you live in the inner cities, that's restriction of freedom. When you live out in the suburbs, that's more freedom. But they want to be able to push it and say, you should not live out in the suburbs, live in the city. Even if it's from a subconscious point, which I believe, because they will never outright say it. But they're definitely thinking that and they're definitely pushing it therefore.
replacement cost.
Fix says there are quick changes you can make now that will save you money. She says take extra items out of the car. Check your tire pressure once a month. Make sure the gas cap is always tight and secure, and make sure vehicle maintenance is up to date. Fix says wait at least another year before purchasing your next vehicle when prices level out, whether it's a regular one or an electric car. In Jackson Heights, Thalia Perez.
Now I want to take you to a couple of articles that I had saw, certain things that you have to put in mind. You understand? Certain things that I started to look at and research my damn self, in which I really believe they're pushing a lot, which I said earlier. You know what I mean? A lot, especially when I go around the city, I see so many of these ads. It's like, you know, get out of your car and get on this bus. And it's just like, why are y'all pushing so many people to get on public transportation, especially when it comes to the whole entire pandemic that's still going on right now? I mean, these advertisements you see is so insane, but, you know, it's just something I really want to, you know, talk about. It's crazy. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something really quickly where they're trying to advise people to get back into the whole entire thing of public transportation. But we're going to talk about it in a little while. You understand? Let's check this out. So see how you have, there's two articles I'm going to read to you really quickly. This one I'm going to start off with New York. You know, this is their plan. This is what the lobbyist is pushing out here. And I really want you guys to pay attention. You see how it says New York sets 2035 zero emissions passenger car goal, right? And the reason I want to bring up LA and New York, for example, is like these are one of the top biggest cities in America. We all know that. And that the fact of the matter is what they're pushing for 2030 is to be able to use, in my opinion, AI technology, the surveillance state and the police state, then be able to say that, you know, by relying on electricity, it makes it easier to navigate through different boroughs, therefore, of different places where everything is through your app, everything is through your phone. Eventually, everything is through you because we know how to program you in order to go ahead and give you the essential needs of what you want. But then again, it goes into this idea, you're not going to be able to own your car. You're not going to be able to finance it. You're not going to be able to do all these different things because we have the control of doing it. So you don't have to worry about all that. They're always going to pitch it to you in a nice manner to make it seem like it's a great advertising sales point. But we all know it's a cap. We all know it's bullshit. But let's read this. New York sets 2035 zero emissions passenger car goal. Shout out to Daniel and David. New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Wednesday signed into law a bill that sets a goal for all new passenger cars and light-duty trucks to be zero-emission models by 2035, joining the state of California in attempting to eliminate gasoline-powered vehicles. The law directs setting regulations requiring higher number of zero-emission vehicles with a goal of 100% of in-state sales by 2035 and a similar target for medium-duty or heavy-duty vehicles by 2045 if feasible. They're going to make it feasible. The U.S. government is seeking to promote the sales of electric vehicles to reduce the consumption of fossil fuels and help meet global goals to slow human-caused climate change. I'm still actually studying. I'm actually still studying the whole entire thing on climate change. And when they're using the idea that humans is causing climate change, I mean, still, I believe it's a lot of corporations or the higher uppers that have a lot to do with killing off the Earth's planet. But they won't say that. They'll say, oh, we have to do better and all this other stuff. No, emitting all those gas out those factories and knowing exactly what you're doing to kill off the planet, it's your fault. Especially when they have those people out there bothering those indigenous people out there in Brazil, messing up their whole entire homes and cutting down trees so that they can make way for all these new developments out there in those foreign lands. In August, President Joe Biden took a step towards toward his goal of slashing greenhouse gas emissions with an executive order aimed at making half of all new vehicles sold in 2030 electric, a goal made with backing from the biggest US automakers. But Biden has repeatedly refused to endorse proposal to phase out the sale of all new gasoline-powered vehicles by 2035, despite pressure from some Democrats in Congress. Last year, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order that set a goal of banning the sale of new gasoline-powered passenger vehicles starting in 2035. In April, New York, California, and 10 other states asked Biden to set standards to ensure that all new passenger cars and light-duty trucks are zero emissions by 2035. New York City said on Wednesday that to meet its climate goals, it would need 400,000 of the city's 2 million vehicle owners to switch to EVs by 2030. The city vows to install a network of 10,000 curbside charge points by 2030. The state of New York said it was proposing regulations requiring an increasing percentage of all new medium and large trucks sold in New York to be zero emissions beginning with the 2025 model year. The legislation signed Wednesday also seeks to require all off-road vehicles by zero emission models by 2035. So therefore, those that has gasoline cars right now, you better make sure your joint is hybrid soon. Because a lot of it, you know what I'm saying? A lot of it, you know, what it's all a big push, right? And like I said, read exactly what it says to the whole entire Agenda 2030. Of course, they're going to tell you about saving the planet and affecting climate change. It's a whole entire lobbyist push. You know what I mean? I'm not big into the whole entire political field, but like, I know bullshit when I know bullshit. You know what I'm saying? They have a lot of these ads, campaign ads right now, like especially this. If you check this out, in a place like New York City, this is on the back of a city bus that says, get out of your car, get into this bus, right? And the reason I bring this up is because this tells you that they're doing all these different programs, making it harder for people to drive, installing all these lanes and privileges to public transportation. You know what I mean? Giving more people a headache inside these inner cities. You know what I'm saying? And that's just my accurate guess on one of the things I believe they're doing. This is why I always say they start off with the city as first, because it's easier to control people within inside of a confined environment. Whereas if you're in the suburbs, it's more harder to control you because you own your car. It's more likely you own your car, you own your house. You know what I mean? You're able to be financially efficient where you don't have someone to tell you what to do. You understand what I'm saying? Stuff like that. That's just my accurate guess, but I'm not here to, you know, say that I know all. I don't. So this was another one that I also started looking at as well. LA council members are pushing for an LA electric vehicle master plan. Shout outs to Zach. There are a number of government-backed initiatives in Los Angeles currently in motion to shift to improving air quality and electric vehicle adoption. See, this is where I feel a little bit like I agree, but at the same time, I know there's BS, because I know that when it comes to places like LA and, you know, even here, even in New York, places like the boroughs like the Bronx, they suffer from very bad air quality in the cities as well. You know, there's a high asthmatic rates amongst children, adults, and all these different things. We know that for sure. But two city council members believe multiple, sometimes disjointed plans aren't making progress in the face of a climate crisis. On Friday, Paul and Mitch introduced a motion to create an electric vehicle master plan for Los Angeles, effectively bringing together all of the existing moves by the city and LA Department of Water and Power to create a roadmap for electrification of vehicles. The master plan is intended to lead into the LA 100 study to get the city entirely on renewable energy sources as soon as 2035. Their motion came days before the U.S. Senate passed a $100 $1 trillion infrastructure bill that included $7.5 billion for electric vehicle charging stations and $73 billion to upgrade the nation's electricity grid. Reducing and eliminating greenhouse gas directly benefits the working class and communities of colors. That's a ploy. That's an alibi. That's an excuse. As millions live adjacent to busy streets and even busier highways, O'Farrell said in a statement to .la, to achieve equitable decarbonization, we must focus our investments thoughtfully and strategically. O'Farrell represents neighborhoods including Atwater Village, Elysian Valley, and Hollywood. He is also the chair of the City Council's Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice, and Los Angeles River Committee. The master plan is also aimed at some of LA's most congested and polluted corridors. In District 13, that includes the 110, 101 interchange, as well as portions also Interstate 5. In the motion, Kukorian and O'Farrell want the city and LADWP to work together on the master plan to best utilize state and federal funding for the mass adoption of EVs. The plan would also include an equitable placement of electric vehicle infrastructure across the city, including provisions for residential, commercial, and industrial users. The motion, which builds on the 2015 Los Angeles Sustainability Plan, as well as the 2019 Los Angeles Green New Deal, came one day after President Biden signed an executive order that set a goal for half of all new car sales to be either plug-in electrics, plug-in hybrids, full battery electric vehicles, or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles by 2030. And it also came just a few days before the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report warning of widespread temperature changes and rising sea levels globally. In January, Mayor Eric Garcetti identified 62,851 EVs registered within the city, less than 1% of the vehicle population. The city had already committed to going to an all-electric fleet of government vehicles by 2028. In addition, the city still has a goal of providing 28,000 commercial vehicles charging stations by the end of the decade and 15,000 by 2025. LA also has just over 11,000 chargers for commercial EVs. For passenger vehicles, the city has worked to install charging stations at government buildings, city parks, and libraries. LADWP is also in the middle of installing curbside chargers mounted on street lampposts throughout LA. O'Farrell's office told .la that incentives for residents and businesses should factor into the master plan, though they haven't determined the scope. While LADWP currently has its own programs for residential, low-income vehicle owners and commercial customers, much of it depends on available state funding, which in turn relies on federal funding. And they'll give away that shit quickly because they're trying to meet up with the whole entire thing that's going on, in my opinion. The new infrastructure bill could change some of the existing programs. A new federal infrastructure bill may also affect how much funding can go to building out the public charging network and rebates offered to LADWP customers. And a master plan eventually approved by the city could face hurdles similar of the federal bill, especially following Garcetti's ambassadorship nomination last month and the gubernatorial recall election in September. O'Farrell's office hopes the master plan motion comes before the Energy and Climate Change Committee sometime next month with the intent to put it to the full council in October. So that's just something that I want you guys to think about, because I started seeing this whole entire thing about the gas prices rising and, you know, the whole entire thing that's going on with Ukraine. But I was like, perfectly, when you read a lot of these different things that's going on and these agendas, when these world organizations want to come together to have their yearly annual meetings, and all this other stuff. They always say, we got to change the planet, we got to change the world. But y'all was the one that was destroying it in the first place. So now y'all trying to clean up y'all shit, but at the same time, we know damn well that there was already a factor of trying to make everything more efficient when it came to electricity. The towers, the whole entire electric grid, the Wi-Fi, this, that, and the third, man. Moving into these apps now with everything to make everybody interconnected into that instead of having people still be able to go outside and do what they got to do. The bike lanes, the walkways, these different things. And that's why I'm saying they're going to focus on the cities first before they focus on the suburbs, because it's about control, master control. So how could they get people to follow the program? You get an existing population where everybody's pretty much on top of each other, do it there, and then you transverse it out to the people that's out in the outlying areas. Something to think about, just in my opinion. Peace.